Hi everyone, welcome to See the Invisible, living with an invisible or rare disease. My name is Rhonda Franny Jefferson, and thank you so much for taking some time to listen today. If you're new here, welcome. To let you know a little about this podcast, I started it to try to spread some positive feelings, and I also know that many people, myself included, if you have a rare or chronic or invisible illness, I wanted to let everybody know that you're not alone and you do have a voice. I know it's been especially hard this past year and not being able to get out and see everybody as much as usual or maintain those social contacts. So sometimes, just speaking for myself, I know it's been a little difficult at times to stay upbeat and positive. So a lot of people, they may not understand what we're going through, and though everyone's situation is different, everybody who has an invisible illness or a chronic illness, they might be different illnesses, but we can all empathize with each other. Oftentimes there is an overlap too in that when an illness is rare, invisible, or chronic, it can be all three of those or two of those. So, we have a lot on our plate each morning when we get up and try to get through the day. I wanted to build a community to try to support others. So to paraphrase some sayings I've seen in other articles, we may be an individual. We may have a rare illness and be one of a few with that illness, but together our voices are many. So before I really get into the podcast, I wanted to share an event and my feelings throughout this past week. And there was a little bit in a delay of getting this episode out because I've been feeling both physically and emotionally drained. I'm still actually feeling a lot of pain right now, and I have to have dental surgery later today, so I figured if I was going to get this done today, it had to be before half of my mouth was numb. But I also know that I mention in some episodes that your emotional, mental, and physical health are really all tied together. And I don't know if I got so upset that I was starting to feel bad, or the fact that I was feeling bad made me more emotional, affected my feelings in that way. But what happened is, I'm not going to say the name of the company. You may or may not figure it out, but I'm not going to say the name because I don't know really what the rules are about doing that. But it is a social media platform, and occasionally I would do something called a boost on a post, meaning it could reach more people. And somehow in sharing this podcast, this company said that I couldn't do that in a boost. At least that's the only thing I can figure out. They will not tell me what they deemed wrong about boosting a post to say that the next episode was out, which I did that occasionally. Sometimes they had a promotion, like if you spend a certain amount, you got a certain amount free. And, so it's not something I did with every episode, just a few times. And, that's the only time I ever boosted anything, but it said that I can't do that anymore because doing so violated their guidelines. So I don't know if it's because it's a podcast and we weren't supposed to do that. I read the guidelines and that didn't seem, at least with my understanding of what it was. I really don't know. And even though I was able to chat with someone in their support center, they can't even see it, at least according to what she said. She said they can't see it and let us know what the reason was so that someone cannot find a way to circumvent those rules. But again, all I'm doing is, putting in my, on my post, here's the next episode of this podcast, this is what we're covering. And, like I said, I guess for some reason that wasn't allowed. The funny thing is, each boost has to be approved before it's actually, allowed to go up. So, it's kind of strange that someone had to review it and okay it before it actually went, on that company's site. And when you go to my actual page, it said that nothing's ever been rejected, but, again, they said I still can't boost any post, which overall is not a major issue because, like I said, I didn't do it often. But, me, I've always been rather hard on myself, and it got me really upset that maybe I'd misunderstood something or I did something I wasn't supposed to, when, deep down I know that to, say that I'm just putting out my next episode, this is what it's about, I hope you can take some time to listen. I know that there's nothing wrong with that. I guess it was just that company's policy. But again, I don't even know because they had to approve each boost and they did that. So what that made me feel like, though, was that I had failed. So I know logically, again, that there was nothing that I could see was wrong with, just trying to reach more people. And, again, I've always been rather hard on myself. It might be because of body image. I was really thinking a lot. And I have lymphedema, which I've mentioned before, and that's, a very extreme swelling of the limbs. I have it in my legs and arms, and even to a certain extent, sometimes the lymphatic system. It can get into like the lower part of my abdomen, and growing up like that, and it wasn't as bad when I was younger, but it was still definitely there. I really had a very self-conscious image, and I knew that, if I was, in gym, that I looked different. The shape of my legs, my arms, everything was different. And even if somehow all the fluid were able to come out of those limbs, they would still look unusual. So I think over time I've tried to compensate with that by trying to do everything perfectly. And the thing is, we're human and we're not perfect. And, like I said, maybe I just didn't see something about the guidelines and it said you can't do this for podcast, or, it has to be something that you're selling, even though, right now I don't plan on ever selling anything on there. If by some, unforeseen instance, I actually do get like a lot of numbers with followers, then I might do some fundraisers for, actually raising funds for rare disease research. But that's it. So, again, I know logically I didn't do anything, or at least do anything intentionally, but it is what it is. And I spent, a good amount of time really worrying that I had failed somehow. And I finally just decided to give up. You know what? I can't control what that company does. They use an algorithm to look at everything. And like I said, they actually approved the post, and my account activity shows that I never had any rejected posts or boosts. So I know logically I didn't do anything wrong, and it took a really long time, over about the past week, to let that sink in, that I did not fail. And it is the norm for me to be that hard on myself. One time my sister, she was older than I was, and she didn't live with us, and she came in and asked how I did on my report card. I had gotten a B, and I cried for I don't know how long. It's like as soon as she said that, I broke out into tears, and my mother was like, she got a B. And my sister just said, are you kidding? But that's how I was. And something I know that I need to work on is, learning what battles are worth fighting. It's worth fighting to make sure I have the best health care, to fight for my family, and for what I feel is right. Um, I spent a lot of negative energy on this over the past week, and I really want to let that go. This podcast really helps me so much as far as, being able to express how I'm feeling. If anyone else is feeling that way, it lets someone know that they're not alone, even though I know this is a little bit of an unusual, situation. But the emotions might still be there if there's someone who maybe didn't get to accomplish something over the past couple weeks that they wanted to, and things like that. You know what? Do the best that you can do. And in some cases, it's another person's decision, like this one. And if you can't, force someone to change an opinion or their mind, it might just be better for you, and in this case me, emotionally, to step away and just accept that, because the longer we hold on to that negative energy, the worse that we're going to feel. I had even at one point thought, why maybe I shouldn't do the podcast anymore. And I knew that I was really, first and foremost, going to be hurting myself, because, again, it really, really does help me to talk about these things. And, I said, no, I have to do this. And I feel a lot better even now just talking about it. So, just if you have something going on in your life that's negative, it might be extremely hard to do, but just try to let go of it, because it's not worth the emotional and mental drain for something like that. So with that, I'm not going to mention it anymore on the podcast. I just appreciate you letting me go off on a tangent that really isn't part of the topic, but again, this is really helpful for me as well. And before I start about the topic of the podcast, I always do like to give my disclaimer that I am in no way a medical, insurance, or legal expert. If you have any questions in those areas, please be sure that you contact a specialist in that field. I will discuss topics or articles that I've found on publicly accessible means. Any opinion discussed is based on my experiences and my understanding of that particular topic and how it pertains to my life with my illness. It is not meant to and should not be used in place of any medical advice. So today I'm going to be doing more of a general overview of allergies and asthma. Focusing more right now on allergies because of the season that we're in, but I will probably go into some more episodes that are more in depth about food allergies, maybe allergies to medications, sometimes where there's an overlap. And I actually have an appointment with an allergist tomorrow. Now, this is just a story I heard growing up, and I cannot give you the exact time frames because this all happened when I was a baby. I just had happened to come across a calendar that my mom kept for my first year of birth, and there were all these days X'd out, and I asked her what that was. Now, I'd been premature, but the date range did not really fall within the time that I would have been in the hospital for that. It was well after my birth. And she said that I'd been in the hospital because of allergies. What happened was, I was at the age where people or babies start eating kind of a softer food, and she would give me scrambled eggs or some type of egg because it's really soft, but I was continually sick. So I eventually was put in the hospital, and it seemed like every time I was getting a little bit better and I started to eat, I'd be sick again. So eventually it was determined I was allergic to eggs, and then also had your regular seasonal allergies, hay fever, allergies to mold. Basically every tree is what my previous allergy tests said, and I've also since then developed allergies to dogs and horses, which, I was always around dogs my whole life, so that was new. And, again, there are some very specific things that once I do individual episodes on the types of allergies and things like that, I can get into a little bit more. But there are certain allergies that tend to come up as you get older. And then you can also outgrow some allergies. And that's what my allergist is actually checking for today, to see if I've outgrown any of my allergies. So fingers crossed. Even though with one of the foods, I have not eaten it, at least on purpose, for the last 40 years. So even if I'm not allergic, I don't think I could ever get used to eating it. But I do think that there are some people who look at those who have allergies and asthma and think that it's no big deal, that it's just, watery eyes or, itching, or, they just have to take an inhaler and that's it. You don't have to worry about it again, when we all know that's not necessarily the case, that it's much, much more than that. Now, I do have another podcast as well. It's kind of about local events that have happened in the past. And I was going over an unusual tractor-trailer accident for those episodes. And there were quite a few unusual tractor-trailer accidents. And what I mean by that is the cargo they were carrying. So one involved 20 million bees. A truck carrying 20 million bees overturned. And, the fire department said there was not a concern about any stings, nothing really much more than usual, except if you were in the immediate vicinity. Otherwise, dispersing the bees would help decrease, the likelihood that you would get stung. But my first thought went to someone that, I guess when you get down to it, I've known her since I was born. Her mom and my mom were actually roommates in the maternity ward. I think now everybody has their individual room, but back then she had to share a room, and this other person's mother and my mother were roommates. And in elementary school, we were told when we went out to recess, if we see a bee, come let the teacher know. And it was because this young lady was allergic to bees, and it was very severe. So we all knew to be aware that if she did get stung, that we should get, one of the teachers or an adult member of staff. Some people today, I think, might say, well, that's a lot to put on a child. But at the same time, it did help us understand that, we had to be careful. We had to be aware. And while she did her best to be aware, we did too. So when, covering the tractor-trailer accidents, some were kind of funny, or, you could almost visualize it. But my first thought went to her when I heard about this incident. It could have been very potentially dangerous for her. So, going through life with allergies can sometimes be trying in certain situations, such as if you're going out to eat, then you have to be really, really careful. And I've been in restaurants where, I mentioned the eggs, and mayonnaise is made of eggs, and some sauces or salad dressings have, that mayonnaise base. And, sometimes I'll ask for something without a sauce, and if I'm not sure, or if the waiter or waitress hesitates when I ask if it has egg anywhere, I just won't get it because I don't want to take the chance. But sometimes when they accidentally put it on the food, I'll send it back, and when it comes out, I can just see where they scraped it off, which doesn't really do anything. Throughout my life, I've been charged extra for actually getting less food. I have to order things either a la carte, or they have to make a special order. I've actually watched some food being prepared for me, and even after I told them I had an allergy, they just ignored it. This was to strawberries, and that I developed as an adult. Maybe my blood test will come back, nice today that I can start eating them. Again, fingers crossed. But I was in a shop that made ice cream, and I saw the person in front of me had ordered something with strawberry in it, and when the server came to ask me and my then boyfriend what we wanted, I let her know immediately I was allergic to strawberries and I had seen the previous order. And she shook her head. She took our orders, and then she went right over and put my order and used the same tools to make that. And I stopped her and tried to be, just nice. I'm sorry, but that did touch the strawberry. Can you please, start over with a different, utensil or tool? And she was not very happy. There was like sighing out loud, rolling her eyes, giving me a stare. And, my allergies